Hello, Sharon.
Hi, Eric. Fancy meeting you here on Facebook Live. Yeah, I never know who's going to show up. But it's usually you.
Well, at least on Friday afternoons, it's usually me. Yeah.
Great to see you. And good afternoon to everyone who's joining us here on Facebook. We're glad you're here. Please, as always, say hello to us in the chat so we can greet you and know with whom we are spending the afternoon.
Should be a really fun show this afternoon. We have Steve Gordon who's joining us, and Sharon and I have thought about, for those of you who are out there, tonight we're going to be celebrating the temple's 97th birthday.
97.
97, and she doesn't look a day over, she had a facelift about 10 years ago, so she looks
right, good. Right. It's good to be the temple, right?
So we're going to be sharing some of our favorite memories or fondest memories of the temple, and maybe if you're out there and you have something that you want to share, we can let us know that too, and we'll share that in the chat as well. So.
Yeah, 97 means the 100th is really around the corner. It's going to be a fun few years ahead as we approach that 100th birthday. I'm excited.
Assuming we get back in the building.
It's going to be a really long 3 years.
Yes, no, it's going to be actually a really great 3 years. I know that once we do, not that we're not working hard when we're not in the building, but once we come back, we're going to have a tremendous amount of really great, fun programs that are going to both help us look back at what our history was, as well as looking at our future. And the energy moving forward is great. So I know we all just can't wait to get back
yep.
in the temple, back together again, being able to celebrate in person together, have classes together in person, share meals together. How is that going to be, right?
That's going to be something. Yeah, last night we got El Pollo Loco, and my kids were reminiscing about El Pollo Loco Shabbat dinners at the temple. You know how much they miss those chicken dinners. Although Sadie happily remembered that Eric switched us to Costco chicken, so okay, we made the transition. Okay.
Yes, well, it was a good transition. Don't blame.
It was.
Don't. My wife knocks me enough for Costco. Don't you start in there too. So. It's good chicken, yeah, but I mean, right? It's thinking about a whole nother time where people can actually share food from the right. It's that things don't have to be individually wrapped, and
right.
And everyone doesn't need to get their own specific prepared plate that you can. That's going to be so nice. It's going back to a sort of a family style, hopefully, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think we're all sort of have a taste of what that might be like. We can kind of imagine it now. Hopefully it's not too far around the corner for us.
Right. Yeah, when people can touch the same spoon, right? The same spoon. When is that going to happen? And so do we have people who have joined us?
We do. We have people that are watching. You have to all say hello so we can actually know who's here with us. But Ruth Cooperman's here, and Jay Alhadaf, two of our regular Anything Goes viewers. Hi, Ruth and Jay. We're glad you're here. But yes, feel free to greet us in the chat. And as a reminder to all of our viewers, if you have questions for us or for Steve later in the program, feel free to put them in the comments, and I will do my best to share them with Steve.
In some ways, it felt a bit of a quiet week at the temple. There wasn't a ton of additional programming, but we had all our regular stuff. So it was still a busy week nonetheless.
Yeah. Although I have to say, last night we had our JJL Babka class, and it was so fun, Eric. We had almost 30 people who joined us for the babka making, which was a lot of people for our cooking classes. And Eve Lunt did a beautiful job of leading us through a pretty complicated recipe. And I do a lot of baking, and this had a lot of steps. It wasn't like an impossible thing, but it definitely was time consuming. But the results were amazing. I think people had a great time.
Did you do chocolate babka or was it another?
I did chocolate. A lot of people did like chocolate and hazelnut.
Mhm.
And then it had like an orange infused cinnamon syrup over the top, like kind of like a simple syrup.
Right, so it has a
Soaked into the bread.
so it glazes and has a nice shine on the top.
Mhm. Yeah,
The
it was
key-
good.
And then there's you got to braid and twist at the same time, right? To get
Yeah, it was so good. I'd never made a babka before. My handy dandy assistant here is showing what's left of our babka. There was a really beautiful big babka, but now it's just a half a babka. But it was good.
There's enough for me to stop to get a piece on my way home.
Yeah, better come quick.
Well, you make fresh challah too, so people, your family is spoiled. They get your great fresh baked challah. They get the fresh baked babka also, and but that's huge. 30 people. That's really
Yeah, it was really great.
Makes us feel like we should take our show on the road, right? And
Right.
we should, maybe Eve wants to do, is it? You think it was just the babka, or was it a combination of everything?
I think a combination, yeah. And Eve has taken some classes online from a famous chef, and she learned to make babka from him. So yeah, so I think Eve and I may take some other classes with him and consider bringing them to JJL as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a really great turnout. It's great to see that our families wanted to experience that and do that together. So
yeah.
It's so Jewish, right? It's like like a little bit like eating Jewish history. It's
yeah.
I bet 97 years ago with the first temple oneg, they probably had babka.
I think so too, for sure.
If not babka, rugula. They had something with a ch or a l or something Yiddishy sounding. So
Eve actually shared with everyone in attendance that great clip from Seinfeld about the babka when they go to the bakery and the chocolate babka is sold out, and they can't settle on anything else except a chocolate. Yeah, thank you.
Well, like I said, that's really great. It is the rest of February continues. The fun continues, I guess, is get closer to Purim. I know we've done we have our Purim bag fundraiser that's going on that people can still sign up for, and the week of Purim, so that last week in February, everyone can expect and look outside their front door to get a nice delivery of their Temple Israel Purim bag this year.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I know. I'm really missing the experience of seeing all those people in the temple kitchen making thousands of hamantaschen for the congregation. But don't worry, all you bakers, we'll get you back next year.
Chana, if you're out there, don't rest too much, because we're gonna need you for the future to hamantaschen. So like we started, the temple is 97 years old. This month. Articles of incorporation, the exact date is February 8th, 1924. I think there were some meetings before they were officially incorporated, but that's the date we're going with, is
okay.
February 8th. And Sharon, you've now been with the temple how long?
This is my 21st year.
21st.
Yeah.
And earlier in Anything Goes, we had Harriet Ellis, who's actually the same age as Temple Israel.
Right, exactly.
And had some of those really early on temple memories from the 50s, I think, right? She went back and remembered some things.
Yeah.
How about you? I don't know if they're different. I mean, I can say what's your first memory of the temple, and then what's your fondest memory of the temple?
Oh gosh, so many amazing memories. I can hardly wrap my head around the idea that I've been with the temple for 21 years. I feel so fortunate. Some of my early memories are being, of course, in the old building, right? It kind of helps to have the two different buildings, because I can isolate my memories a little bit more. I remember meeting all of the teachers and the students in that first year, and how warmly I was welcomed to the community. I remember some of the early galas, that I attended. There was a gala that I attended even before I started officially working at the temple. At the AJCC, they had like a 50s themed like sock hop gala, which was a lot of fun. And I remember, of course, the efforts to decide whether or not we were going to remodel, or move. And I tell you, those conversations, Eric, went on forever. I just thought we would be in 2020 still having that same conversation. But with a lot of thought and courage, we decided was it like 2010? I think that was the decision around that time to actually remodel the building, and started the work in 2011, I think. And those years, when the year plus that we were out of the building, was very, very memorable. You and I were already working together at that point, and to think about the project of finding a temporary space and having our offices in one place and school in a different place and services in a third place. It was quite a production.
Yeah. Because that was so I started July 2010, and sort of thrown right into the final. It was those final discussions, right? I remember we did one other visit together to a different location.
I feel like you had just started. Like, was it like your first week or something? I mean,
it might have. Yeah, it was really early on. And
yeah, that church that was on the other side of Redondo, right?
Yeah, exactly, on Temple and
Yeah.
And so I remember having that discussion going, and I think when I started, I thought it was already worked out that there was just going to be the remodel. So I was a bit surprised. But yeah, no, I think my it's weird because all of those, even back to my interview, which now I'm going on, like I remember my first impression of the temple, my first walking around and then meeting people here, and then my first Shabbat was actually a Shabbat in the park, and I didn't really know Long Beach yet, and the previous executive director, I think that week before, drove me to he's like, oh, here's the spot we do it, and you just figure it out, and people show up, and you bring the challah and some cookies, and I was worried that I wasn't going to find my way back to the park, but I got there, and it was actually a really great casual way to meet a lot of people at the temple. It was, that first day I put up the sign, and people were like, introducing themselves, and I think the community often, it shows how it is. We're a very warm and welcoming, friendly community, and I think meeting people at the park and then them welcoming me into the community, that way, and just making me and my family feel comfortable, was huge.
That's very fitting.
Yeah.
I don't remember my first Shabbat service, although I do remember some of my first Torah Center sessions, and I remember some of my first costumes. I did a thing, I think it was my first year at the temple, first or second year. It was an all school family learning day about Shabbat. And I went and I bought like a secondhand wedding dress, and I came in as like the Sabbath bride, and a lot of really ridiculous things. Well, I guess I'm still doing those ridiculous things, but I do remember that Sabbath bride costume. Yeah.
Well, if you out there, if anyone has some fond memories that they want to share in the chat, or their earliest memory of the temple, please do that. We can come back, Sharon will go through and we'll share some of those. I don't want it to go too late before we welcome on Steve.
Yes.
It's a busy night at the temple with the birthday celebration, but just to keep everybody in mind. So in a couple of weeks we have Purim, and there's going to be plenty of emails about that as far as what's going on for Purim. And then next week for Shabbat Anything Goes, we are welcoming Robin, Now, and Lillian.
Yes, yeah.
And they have also a great history with the temple. They're very involved, and that should be a great interest and an interesting interview.
Yep.
And so, gosh, to be a president of the temple, what, you know, and he's doing an interview here. So
I feel like we should play like Hail to the Chief or something when he comes on.
I don't have that music background. I guess we should.
I could hum it or something.
Okay. Why don't you bring Steve on and we'll hum Hail to the Chief. Is there a Jewish version of that? What do they play in Israel? So
they probably have something. I don't know what it is.
If you know out there, if you have time, Google what they play in Israel when the president or the prime minister walks into the room.
All right, here we go. But you're like in the Dodger Stadium. That doesn't, I mean, that's not so presidential.
No.
Like,
but if I
take me
could
out to the ball game.
take me out to the ball game would be great. But if I could choose any one place I would love to be, it would be Dodger Stadium.
Dodger Stadium.
Haven't been there for a long time. Looking forward to getting back there again.
My parents got their first vaccines at Dodger Stadium. Pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Michelle got her engagement ring on a day that she and I were going to a game.
Yeah.
And in the evening, she was holding out her ring to see how the lights of the stadium made it sparkle. I had given it to her, or, you know, we had gotten engaged, of course, and we had picked up the ring, and I had picked it up that day and brought it with me, and so she had it that evening.
That's so cute. That's so cute. Well, I know spring training is about to kick off, so you must be excited about that.
Very excited. Dodgers are coming off a world championship, which is very, very cool. And I think they have a pretty darn good, strong roster. Looking forward to some good games and maybe winning another one. That would be very cool. That would be very
cool.
Before we go on, because I know it's easy for us, for those out there, Steve he's a very involved president. I know Sharon and I have a very close relationship with him. It's easy for us to talk, but I want to make sure that I share who you are with our viewers.
That should take about 3 seconds.
Well, you wrote more than 3 seconds, so I'm gonna have to.
I like to write fiction.
I'm not a speed reader. You know, so everybody take the following bio with a grain of salt. Steve Gordon has been a member of Temple Israel since 1992, when his eldest started our Torah Center. And since that time, he has been an active participant in many temple activities, including co-chairing the 2004 Gala, which is B'nai Oleh. Actually, I have a poster of that in my office. I'm staring at it right now. And then
remember that Gala.
And then serving on the temple board of directors for the last 7 years. He is currently president of the temple. And prior to joining the temple board, Steve spent 10 years on the board of Jewish Family and Children's Service here in Long Beach. Professionally, Steve has owned a multi-line insurance agency since 1987. His passions include the blue and gold of his beloved UCLA Bruins and spending time at the poker table with friends. Steve has lived in Long Beach for 36 years and says his life would be empty and meaningless without the 4 people who represent his brass ring on the merry-go-round of life: his wife, Michelle, daughter, Rachel, son, Jeff, and granddaughter, Jessa. Welcome to Shabbat Anything Goes, Steve Gordon.
Thank you very much for having me. Although I have to tell you, I'm a little nervous. The title of the program here is Anything Goes. So I'm a little curious about anything. What does anything mean?
I try to keep Eric in check, so you know.
Right, Sharon and I have talked about it after hours. Last week we started talking about an after hours version that it could really maybe be an anything goes version, but this is still the afternoon family friendly Shabbat Anything Goes version.
So you're not going to ask me to like recite the Greek alphabet backwards or something?
Only after you do a shot, and then you know we'll have to mix that in.
Good, good, good.
So Steve, how are you and Michelle doing? How's the family? How are you? How are you dealing with you know with what's still the new normal now that it's
Yeah.
I remember us sitting in the library, all the staff, and discussing, should we close the building? When do we close the building?
Right.
And drafting that letter that's going to go. It's hard to believe that that's pretty much a year ago.
It's just about a year. And I remember that meeting well also, because at the time we really weren't certain it was the right thing to do. We were speculating. Organizations had closed, some did not. Should we not? And one of the things that I particularly remember is that we were all looking at calendars to think about when we can come back. And we were thinking, okay, should we do this for 2 weeks? Should we do it for 3 weeks? No. 3 weeks is too long for everyone to be out of the building. That's too long. Let's pick a different date. And then lo and behold, it's coming on a year. And I was going to say with no end in sight. We do have an end in sight. I mean, it's not today, it's not tomorrow, but I think we're getting a little bit closer. So hopefully we can get there.
Yeah, Steve, Eric and I were talking about some memories, our fondest memories, and that's certainly not one of my fondest memories, but it is one of my strongest memories of that day and that meeting.
It was pretty significant. It was pretty significant because, again, we didn't know for certain that was the right thing to do. Obviously, it turned out what we needed to do, but we weren't certain. Eric, to answer your first question before you went off into the other, we're doing good. We have a house full of people. The kids are with us. They moved in for lots of different reasons, lots of good reasons. So that they wouldn't be alone during the pandemic. And then we have a new addition to our family. Rachel, my daughter Rachel, is adopting a young child, and that is Jessa. And so they are with us as well. So it's fun. It's hectic. There are a few crumbs on the floor, but we clean them up and wait for the next batch of crumbs on the floor. But she's really a lot of fun. She has really enhanced our lives. Just a month or so ago, we were having dinner, and Jessa turns to Rachel and she says, "Don't talk with your mouth full." And then she says, "Finish your dinner and you can talk."
Oh, precocious.
Yeah, and today, about an hour ago, she was wearing some shoes that she had put on and they were on the wrong feet. Okay. So I said to her, your shoes are on the wrong feet. She says, "No, they're not." I said, "Yeah, they are." And she says, "Your shoes are on the wrong feet." So it's very cute when you're just about 3. We'll see what it looks like when she's 16 or 17.
Right. We're that middle school age, right? Where, I tell my kids to do something and the answer is not so cute necessarily.
Yeah. But it's fun. It's fun. It's hectic, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sharon.
I just say that I know so many people, have felt kind of isolated and without people during this time. It sounds like your household has been full and kept you very busy.
Those are two very accurate things to say. Full and very busy. But it's all good. It's all real good. Yeah.
I mean, I know you and Michelle, you guys, you've been in the Long Beach community for a long time.
Yes.
Have a lot of close friends. You're regular temple goers. You play poker. You have a couple of poker groups that you play with.
Yes.
So what's been the biggest adjustment in terms of and how do you keep your your mindset? So you seem also, I know when we meet, you're so generally positive. So how have you adjusted to that? And then what do you do to keep so positive?
What do I do to keep what?
Keep positive.
Keep positive. Keep positive. So I do go to my office every day. we've made arrangements to where my assistant is working from home. And then I have a partner in the office who is working from home in the afternoons. I'm there in the morning, he's there in the afternoon. So I'm in the office by myself. So in that way, there's some semblance of normalcy because I'm still going to the office every day and then working from home in the afternoons. So in that way, it's not a lot of different. But to answer your question, the biggest thing I miss, I think, is just the gathering with family and friends. You know, go out to dinner with people, going to a movie, going to a ball game, go visiting my sister and her family. Really, really miss that a lot. You know, we talk, of course, we Zoom, we do all those things. But on a day-to-day basis, other than having a house full of people, my life is really not that different than it was previously, other than not being able to do these other things that I so much enjoyed and look forward to being able to do again. That would be the biggest thing that I'm missing. I'd say, and being in the temple, you know, being in the temple. There's so much meaning there, you know, and you know, going to services on Zoom is fine. It's good. It's wonderful. It's what we have to do. But no, it's not the same thing as sitting next to friends and singing the songs and you know schmoozing at the Onig and that kind of thing. But we'll get back there. We'll get back there. It'll be good.
Yeah, Steve, we know that you are so involved with the temple and with JFCS. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of what was your first foray into lay leadership in the Jewish community? Like, what was the first thing that you did? We know you, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So prior to getting involved with JFCS, I really hadn't done much in terms of volunteering. And I thought I'd like to. So I got a call from JFCS asking if I wanted to be on the board. And my background actually is in psychology, and I thought that would be a nice fit. So I joined the board, and interestingly, the first, I don't know, 6 months, a year, something like that, I really wasn't doing a heck of a lot. I was getting a little discouraged. I had a conversation with a couple of people, the executive director and another friend who'd been on the board for many, many years. And it was a very, very simple answer. And the answer was, you get involved, right? You get on a committee, you do things, and you gradually do more and more. And that was the way to get involved. You know, I joke that it seemed like the only meetings I were involved with were the ones to decide what kind of cookies we were going to have for an event. And that's not really my forte, picking those cookies. I know what I would choose.
It's important.
Yeah. So I did, and got more and more involved in different things, and ultimately became president of JFCS, and did that for 3 years actually. It was a 2-year term, but I guess I did so poorly my second year they held me back and made me repeat a year. So I was president for 3 years, and
at that point, you really knew what cookies you needed to get.
That's right. And the cool thing is when you're president, you can say, we're going to have these cookies.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not that.
Actually, yeah.
Maybe not that one. But and by the way, let me just interject. My preference is the Costco chicken versus the Pollo Loco chicken.
Okay, fair enough.
Just let the record show.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So we're headed in the right direction then, Eric.
Good. And then it was time to be done. I'd been on the board for about 10 years, and it's time to be done. And then, I got a call asking me to be on the temple board. Interestingly, I experienced the same thing initially. I really wasn't involved much. I was sitting at the meetings and trying to participate and trying to come up with things that were worthy of bringing up and so on and so forth. And just got more and more involved and serving on different committees. And now they probably wish I would not say some things at the meetings, but that's a different story for a different day.
Yeah, Stephen, we know that your presidential term at the temple will come to a conclusion at the end of June. I'd say the time has gone by so quickly, although we know that it has been an eventful time at the temple over the past couple of years. So it maybe doesn't feel like it's gone by quickly for you, but we are so appreciative of all of your service to the congregation over these past, we still only have a year, we're a year and a half, right? We still have 6 more months to go or something. Maybe not even.
Four and a half.
months.
But
4
who's
months.
counting? But who's counting?
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Did your kids go to the ECE, the JCC preschool, and then that was sort of the natural transition after that? Is that when your family joined Temple Israel?
So they did go to the ECE, including kindergarten. Rachel went to kindergarten at the ECE. And it was interesting because we debated back and forth so many times whether to send her there for kindergarten or to the to a public school kindergarten. And ultimately, we made the decision to send her to the ECE. And it wasn't necessarily a natural transition from that, but when it was time for her to be in Torah school at around age 6, so many of our friends were members of Temple Israel. So it was more of a natural because of all the people that we knew, as opposed to, going from ECE to Temple. There really wasn't any debate. I said we debated back and forth about kindergarten, but there was no debate whatsoever about when it was time to go to Torah Center and become a member of the Temple. And as you said, that was back in 1992. So
what are some of your early memories of the temple and those, like during the 90s? Anything come to mind?
Well, at the time, I wasn't nearly as involved with the temple as I am now. So we would go to services, we'd go to different events. When we first joined, I remember meeting with Shirley Loeb, who was the executive director at the time.
Right.
And she gave us the lowdown. And then I got a call from Rabbi Leibson welcoming us, and that was very, very nice. Really, really appreciated that. And we got involved with a Havurah, and we still are in contact with some of the people that we were in the Havurah with, but many of them are no longer with the temple because it was so long ago. But to answer your question, I think my memories are more in recent years than they were, back then, just because again, I wasn't quite as involved at that time.
Right.
It was a thing to do.
I remember, your kids being in Torah Center and serving as madrachim, and it's hard to believe that they are as old as they are now, and that you have a grandchild now. It's just
yes.
As long as we're not getting any older, then it's all good.
No, I would say that we're not. I would say that we're not, except that one of the I was going to say benefits, but I don't know if it's a benefit of Zoom is that you get to see yourself. So I looked at the picture that you posted in the email talking about anything goes, and I don't think there was quite as much white here as there is now. So I get to see that when I'm on Zoom as opposed to what it looked like previously.
There is a function you can hide self-view if you, so.
Right.
Right. But,
Yeah.
I think the earliest memory, I know Sharon just saw your kids grow up. The earliest memory I have is actually, I think, either playing poker with you and your son, or when your son was already older and served as a bartender for one of our galas.
Yes, he did. When he was in college, he took he went to a bartending school, not per college, but a separate thing, because it was something that he was interested in. So he went to bartending school, and right after that, he volunteered to be a bartender at one of the galas.
Nice.
Yeah.
I remember Jeff's particular closeness to Andy Joustra. May her memory be for a blessing. She was our 7th and 8th grade teacher and our madrachim director. I know that Jeff and Andy had a close relationship with one another.
Yeah, I think Andy had a close relationship with a lot of the kids. It was very nice.
So Steve, we know that you do all these things at the temple, and a lot of us see you in that light. But people who want to get to know you a little bit better, what are some other things that you love to do that are not Jewish community related? Because I've heard there's a world outside of the Jewish world. I don't know. I heard it
You
exists.
haven't
but
you haven't experienced it at all, but you know that there is one that
Tell me about it, please.
Right. So, obviously with COVID, there's a limit to what we can do.
Sure.
As you mentioned, I enjoy playing poker with friends. Love to read. Typically fiction. Every once in a while, there'll be a nonfiction book that'll capture me, but mostly it's fiction. I enjoy that as kind of an escape.
Mhm.
So I enjoy that, and also dabble a little bit in writing, um, um, which really was a lot of fun.
What style?
Hmm?
Right.
I'm sorry?
What style of writing? In writing fiction or writing theater or writing play?
Yeah. So actually, I've written a novel. Um, and I know that it's no great work of art, but I'd like to think it's not a piece of garbage either. I can tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I haven't really. It's pretty much done. It's pretty much done, but I haven't, really done anything with it in the last several years. I've been a little busier over the last several years and really haven't had that chance. But you know, I so thoroughly enjoy it because I know these characters, right? I know who they are. I know what their hopes and their dreams are and their fears and their emotions and all that. And my hope is that I was able to communicate that on the page. It's not a comedy, but there are places in the book that I'm hoping people will smile when they read certain passages. And there are other parts where I'm hoping people will feel, maybe a little tug on the heartstrings when they read certain parts as well. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was really a lot of fun. It was really a lot of fun.
What was the inspiration for the story?
Yeah. So, writing a book is something I've always wanted to do. Always wanted to do it. Never really knew what I wanted to do or how, but it's something I've always wanted to do. And I walk quite a bit. I live right next to El Dorado Park, and I just walk over there and I walk, in the pathway. And I was I was I do I do a lot of thinking when I'm walking. The good things, the bad things, the things that require attention, the reliving things that went well, and so on and so forth. Anyway, I was kind of formulating the idea in my head about what I wanted to do. And as I was walking, more and more and more and more and more and more of the story came to me. Because up to that point, I really didn't have enough. I knew what the basics were. I knew what I wanted to do, but there wasn't enough, 2 paragraphs wasn't going to be enough for a novel. So I needed more. So as I was walking that day, more and more and more and more and more came to me, where I was very anxious to get home and start writing it down. And when I did that, I said, I got it. I got my story. I know what it is. I know how it ends. I know where it starts, where it ends, what's going to happen along the way. And obviously things change, a lot of editing, a lot of changing, a lot of uh, very, very humbling experiences, getting feedback about things that perhaps didn't work, you know. Um, so I just started putting it down. I started creating an outline, the first section is gonna be this, second section is this. And then I got tired of the outline. I said, no. I don't want to make an outline anymore. I want to write the damn thing. I want to write it. So I just started and kept, continuing with the story. And it was recommended that I participate in a writer's workshop. So I found one that was just getting started in Seal Beach. So it's very convenient. They were just getting started, and I think there were 6 of us in this group. And what we did was we met every 2 weeks, and we would submit online portions of our work. Right? People were doing different things: poetry and fiction and nonfiction, and journals and memoirs and all those kinds of things. And then we would go around the table and offer critique
Mhm.
of each person's submission.
Right.
And that was really the humbling part, because there were times that people would say, hey, what you submitted was great, loved it, tweak this, tweak that, but I loved it. But there were quite a few times when they say, you know what, not really working here, not really working. So that was very humbling. But when you hear that, you have to decide if there's validity to the feedback, right? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. And you don't want to be defensive because it's your work, right? It's like, how dare you say that, da 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 da. So you want to have an open mind and accept those things that really do need changing, right? But just because someone gave a critique that didn't work for them doesn't mean it really didn't work, right? If I intended it a certain way and it was the way I envisioned it, the way I wanted it, and so forth, it's what I wanted, right? So that was one of the biggest struggles, is to just differentiate the validity with the feedback as to whether it was accurate or not, But it was a really good group of people. Really enjoyed it, and the time goes by and people move on and things happen, and the group broke up. Before COVID, so we stopped. But it was a really good source for critique, which allowed me to go back and say, you know what, they're right. I really need to change this, and this.
Gives credit to you and your personality, because I think you probably bring some of that into your presidency at the temple as well, as far as, because we know that people aren't shy offering advice and offering critique. I think it's a healthy attitude to be able to label or to say, I'm gonna look at it all, I'm gonna take it all in, and then some of it's valid and then some of it isn't valid, and it's not gonna stress me out, or it's not gonna change how you feel or how you're going to pursue something. So
what was that part you just said about how it's not going to stress me out?
Well, yeah, I don't know if that's possible, but
okay. Just hypothetically.
Did you
So what's next for the book, Steve?
So I would love to get it published in a more traditional way. And again, I really haven't had time to work on it the last few years, but someone gave me a website that lists literary agents and the genres that they're interested in. And so what you do is you write a query letter to these agents with the first 10 pages of your work. And then they get back to you and say whatever they say. So I only sent out a couple just because that's all I could do, and at the time. And I got one response back from someone who said they wanted to see the first 50 pages. So I was flying high. I was so excited. Oh my gosh, this is it. Here's my ticket. This is great. So I sent in the first 50 pages, and then of course I got the standard rejection email. Thank you so much for sending this in. It is not what we are looking for at this time. Best of luck in your future endeavors. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, on July 2nd, I think, I'm going to revisit that website and see the other literary agents that I want to send it to. And if everybody says no, then I will probably just self-publish and have a copy of the book on my bookshelf and say, I did that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm not looking to make any money on the deal. If some bizarre circumstance, happened, wonderful. But that's not why I did it. I did it just because I wanted to, and I did it, and I can say that I did it. So
that's a great accomplishment.
Well,
exciting. Well, we'll look forward to hearing about the next steps of the journey for the book.
yeah.
And then you could start writing porn spiels too, if you want. We can add you.
Right.
Other levels of volunteering for the temple. So we could. utilize. And
You're going to have to
it.
give me, Eric, you're going to have to give me a few weeks before the next ask comes.
Yeah, I figure, but at least we can say, from the author who brought you
There you go.
it, then
Proud to present. Right, yeah.
proudly presents. There we go.
Mhm.
So
That's right.
I got the intro ready for you.
Cool. I look forward to that.
So people who know you also know you have a huge love for UCLA.
Yes.
And was there a family decision to go? Did you always have, was UCLA always the love and the knowledge that, like, when you graduated high school, UCLA was going to be the place? Or did UCLA just happen to be there at the right time and then you became a huge supporter? So
No. It was a place I always wanted to go to. Back then applying to college was very different than it is today. I've always been a fan of UCLA sports, which is not, the best reason to choose a school, but it worked. It was, the school was good enough and I was, a big fan. So it's a place I always wanted to go to. Yeah.
you grew up in the Valley, right? You grew up in.
I grew up in the Valley. That's correct.
That's right. So we have that in common.
Yeah. The Valley.
No one in your family is like gone to USC or anything like that.
No, we would not allow them.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So the question that we asked the kids, when they were thinking about schools was, do you want to go to this place, or if you got a full scholarship, free ride to SC, what would you do? And I raised my kids well, because they would not go to SC. Of course, they're not the ones that were going to be paying for the school, but no, they were not going to go.
And I know that. Go ahead, Eric.
No, I was just gonna, because I'm curious. Then after that, what was it that brought you and Michelle to Long Beach exactly?
Sure. So we got married in 1984, in October of 84, moved to Long Beach in December of 84. At the time, she was working with her family's business in Harbor City, and I was working in Long Beach, actually. And so we were commuting from the Valley to Long Beach and South Bay, and that's a schlep and a half. And, it just doesn't make sense. So, I'd been in the Valley, my whole life. So I joked that Michelle dragged me kicking and screaming, out of the Valley into Long Beach. Yeah, that's how we got there, just because we were both working in this part of town.
Got it.
The Valley's very different, Eric. You know that you were there, and the way I describe it is, a lot of Jewish people in the Valley, but everyone is spread out, right? It's not really concentrated. Whereas in Long Beach, the Jewish community is somewhat concentrated, because there's so many Long Beach Jews who go to Temple Israel, right? And so many Long Beach Jews that participate in some fashion in JCC, right? Whereas the Valley is all spread out. But in the Valley, you really didn't get a lot of questions from people about being Jewish or Judaism. And one of my favorite questions that I got when I was in Long Beach was, we were living next to this elderly couple who at the time were probably the same age that I am now, but at the time it seemed like they were
elderly. Wow.
Yeah. Really nice couple. Very nice couple. And she says to me, Steve, I know what Hanukkah is, but what's Chanukah? She had seen it spelled, right? So that's the kind of question that you really don't get in the Valley. But I got that question in Long Beach.
Just to go back to UCLA conversation for a moment, I know that a role model of yours is Coach John Wooden. Tell us a little bit about why John Wooden, like what he's meant to you throughout your life.
So
did you ever meet him?
I did. Delighted to answer the question, and I will. The only problem is you don't have enough time to hear my entire answer because we have to go to work Monday morning. So yeah, John Wooden is my hero of all time. You know, his success as a coach is unparalleled, and it'll never be matched again in, you know, ever. But what is special about him is who he was as a person. You know, I think it was Sports Illustrated or ESPN said that there's never been a finer coach than John Wooden, nor a finer man.
Hmm.
And his character is just beyond anything. The goodness of him. If you listen to former players, you listen to people that associated with him, it was, you know, this sounds really terrible to say, but it was almost godlike. It was almost godlike. Now, obviously, he's a human. He was a human being and made mistakes like everybody, but his philosophy of life and the way he treated people, you know, his philosophy was, you know, your team goes into the locker room, right? And in the locker room, you throw clothes around and towels around and maybe pieces of food or wrapping of food and so forth. And he told his players that you leave the locker room nicer than when you found it. There's so many things that he said. He'd say things like, what is right is more important than who is right. And it's amazing how much can be accomplished if nobody cares who got the credit. The best thing a father can do for his children is to love their mother. Just some of the things. I met him first when I was 14. I went to his basketball camp. And, you know, he had a chance, everyone had a chance to take a picture with him. It was like a Polaroid type picture right at the time. And so I got my picture sitting next to him, and I went up to him at one of the meals, and he was there all the time. He wasn't just a figurehead who showed up at the beginning and at the end. He was there all the time. And I asked him if he would sign it for me. And he says, "For you, absolutely."
Oh.
Yeah. So I have that picture. I have it in a little frame on a desk at home. And I got to meet him a couple other times. There were some speaking engagements that he had that I was fortunate enough to be able to go to. And then he was still going to the UCLA basketball games up until he was no longer able to. So that was well into his 90s. And you know, he sat on the floor, you know, on the floor seats. And before the game, there was always a big long line of people to greet him. And he did that. Most celebrities don't do that. Most celebrities say, you know, keep him away from me. Right. But before the game started, there was a huge line. You could get a picture taken with them, an autograph, ask them a question. And I had the huge pleasure and honor of being there once. In fact, Jeff and I went, and we got a chance. We got there really early because we wanted to be toward the front of the line. We were second. So we had a chance to talk to him just for a couple of minutes. And it was life-changing. And I know that's an exaggeration, and I know that's a you know, a superlative, but he was just the greatest man ever. Just the goodness in him. You know, he became famous because of his success as a coach, obviously, but the goodness in him is just staggering. When he passed away, the headline in the LA Times the next day was "Coach for Life," meaning, you know, it was he made his players ready for life, not just make them good basketball players. And you know, before he died, Michelle would joke. She'd say, "All right, we know Coach is going to be passing away soon. When he does, and you're crying and you call me, make sure you tell me it's Coach passing away, so I don't think it's something more serious when you're crying on the phone to me." Yeah. He had just a huge impact on my life. And in my office, I have a whole bunch of memorabilia on the walls in my office to Coach. And he was a very special man. Very special man.
So beautiful.
Yeah,
Oh,
talk about them forever.
yeah.
No, it's amazing that I think it's hard. I think people struggle to find role models that you really can learn from, that can relate to, that speak to you, and the fact that that you've found that and embrace what he taught, embrace the type of person that he was, and would teach his athletes to try to be, it's commendable.
So, you know,
It
he
speaks to you.
developed,
It speaks to the good person that you are. So
thank you. He developed something called the pyramid of success. And he defined what he considers success, and that is peace of mind obtained in the self-satisfaction in knowing that you did the best that you could do, right? Doesn't mean you won the game. It doesn't mean you got an A in the class. It means you did the best that you could do. We can fool people, right? We can make it look like we're doing our best. We are the only ones that truly know that. And if you can look in the mirror and say to the person looking back at you, you did your best, then that's success, even if you didn't win the game. Even if you didn't win the game. And I have an autographed copy of the Pyramid of Success. I sent him a copy and he signed it, not only sent it back to me, but he sent back another one that was a little bit nicer in color. The one I had was black and white, and he signed it and sent it back to me along with another one that was a little bit bigger and nicer and in color.
That's so nice.
I told you I could talk about him forever.
We don't have a lot of time left, actually. Sharon, is there any comments from anybody have any nice wishes for Steve?
There's a comment about your easygoing quality and how well suited you were to be president during these COVID times. That's very nice. And just compliments for your service to this community, and maybe a joke about not asking you to sing anything.
So a few years ago, I don't know if you guys remember, but we used to have Shabbat services in the building. You guys remember that?
Oh, right.
Faintly,
Yeah.
faintly do.
So there's this room in our building. It's called a sanctuary, right? So we used to have services in that room. And years ago, I was sitting in services next to a friend, and in the middle of services, he turned to me and he says, "Remind me to thank you for something." I said, "Sure." So services are over, and I said to him, what are you thanking me for? He says he finally found someone who sings worse than he does. So that comment, I won't ask you who it was, but it's right on, and I get it.
You can scroll back and see.
I look forward to that.
Comments. Yeah.
Look forward to that.
So Steve, I want you to know one of the questions that I'd written down that I didn't ask you, and I don't want to answer. So so you took on the huge responsibility of president of the temple during a rabbinic transition, and now there's a pandemic. Is it a coincidence or is it your fault? So just I just
No comment.
I didn't ask that one.
So when they asked me to be president, obviously everything was fine and good. There were no issues about anything whatsoever, right? Eric,
Right.
if you remember, you and I went out to lunch and I asked you about it, right, to get some insight into the job. And I said, what happens if there are two rabbinic transitions and a cantorial transition and a pandemic? And you said, don't worry, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
The odds of that. Yeah.
So it's kind of Eric's fault, actually, is what I'm thinking.
I'll take the heat if you want. So no problem. Well, like Steve, the hour has gone by quickly, and I know even personally, I would like to hear more about John Wooden, but we don't have time. But we do have our 97th birthday Shabbat in just about an hour, and I know
I will be there.
You will be there. You're participating in that. So we need to wrap the show up, but we wrap the show up a special way every week. And
yeah.
You'll indulge us. We ask a few questions that hopefully you just answer off the top of your head. They're inspired from the Actors Studio, from questions from James Lipton, and I know it's usually something our audience likes, and usually it's a
Fire away, fire
all
away.
right. So your first question that we have to ask you, Steve, is
Yeah.
What is your favorite word?
Love.
What's your least favorite word?
Ignorance.
Mm.
And that can be interpreted in a lot of ways. I'll let you kind of decide how I mean it yourselves.
That's one of the great things about the word, is that it can be so. What sound or noise do you love?
Da-na, da-na, da-na-na-na-na-na-na, da-da, dun, 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 dun. Okay.
So I guess we'll just let our audience guess what that
Or didn't you say anything? Someone said.
yeah. Sorry. Yeah, you can dent that at anytime. Just right. It's when there's words behind it that there's probably.
I'll make a note. I'll make a note.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Da, 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 da.
That was the UFC fight song, right? I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right. Is that your final answer for that one? Or is
It is, and it's my first and final answer.
What profession other than what you do would you like to attempt?
Well, I'm not going to be attempting anything. I'm getting really close to being done.
Well, what would have been the dream job?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, but please don't think less of me, because it's kind of weird. Most people don't say that. If I had to do over again, I would have been an accountant. I love crunching numbers. Love crunching numbers.
Really?
Yeah. And for a fun job, I would have been, and I still may be, a poker dealer.
Wow.
I can do it. I can do it really well, actually. And I love kibitzing and throwing the cards around.
Nice. All right. And what profession could you never see yourself doing, or would you?
Handyman.
Mm.
Nor can anybody else see me doing that.
I actually grew up in a house where my dad told me that Jews don't fix things.
Yeah, well, we like to think that, but when I got married, both my father-in-law and two brothers-in-law, two of them were both very incredibly handy.
Yeah, I had to get over that. I told my dad that was an unfair.
Yeah. So I couldn't use that excuse that Jews didn't do it. Yeah, there were three people that could.
And let's see. The last question is:
Yeah.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
How about you did okay? You did okay.
Nice. And perhaps they could introduce you to Tommy Lasorda.
Sure. Although I heard that Tommy is busy checking out the kitchen with Frank Sinatra.
Ah, okay.
There's some good meatballs in heaven right now, I'm sure.
No doubt.
Well, Steve, it was great. It was a really fun and informational hour. Really like talking to you, and really value all the work you've done for the temple. I value you as a friend. I value you as a spirit, as an energy, as a sense of positivity that you bring really to everything that you do.
Thank you. That's very kind, and I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Our work is really enhanced by these positive relationships with our lay leaders, and it continues to be a pleasure to be in partnership with you.
I feel the exact same way with both of you, very much so. Thank you.
So, and to all of our viewers, thank you for joining us for this past hour. I know there's been some entertaining comments, and Steve, you'll have to go back and read some of the funny things that people have said. And we hope that everyone will join us for the rest of our Shabbat evening. We have our Shabbat Prelude that begins at 5:45 with David York, which is always so beautiful. followed by a very festive and celebratory Shabbat service at 6 o'clock, where we will be acknowledging the 97th birthday of our congregation. We
And
look
join
forward to
us
seeing you
next
later.
week at 4 o'clock, and we welcome, like we said, Robin and Alan Lillian are going to be joining us for Shabbat Anything Goes, and it's a great way to end the week. Hope you guys join us next week, and we have some great guests lined up through March as well. So Shabbat Anything Goes keeps trucking along. So.
Always lots of fun to be with you, Eric, and we
You
wish
too,
everyone a
Sharon.
wonderful Shabbat. Thanks again, Steve.
Pleasure, my pleasure. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.